A roller coaster from late last year that has a happy ending? The boyfriend who seems to get off on friends being miserable? A woman who can't seem to get over her partner's ex more than her own partner? Are you catching out your friend, or are you just an a-hole? All these stories and not more, just those stories. Let's get into it. This first story, Am I the A-hole for refusing to cook dinner, began about 6 months ago and rounded up within 9 weeks later. We even get a cut of the husband's side of the story as well, but let's begin from the beginning. I, 23 female, have been married to my husband John, 24 male, for a year now, and recently, aka 5 weeks ago, we welcomed our first baby, a female. I'm currently on maternity leave, which my husband has interpreted as me being a stay-at-home mum instead of taking time to rest before I needed to return to work. Now, I don't really mind it too much, since cleaning my house is soothing for me and a good distraction from my sleep deprivation. I've always been this way, and John does still do his share of household chores. He does most of the outdoor work, and he'll sweep and vacuum. But recently, he's been riding me about not having dinner ready when he gets home. He works from 8 till 5:30, so it's not a completely unreasonable time for dinner, but it's not like I can just stop taking care of our daughter to cook him a meal. I can usually talk him down, and he'll watch daughter while I cook. A few days ago, however, he came into the house and began berating me for not having dinner ready and waiting so he could just walk in and sit to eat. I was actively changing my daughter's diaper while he went on this rant. He went as far to say that he put up with my laziness for long enough and that I needed to do my job properly. I didn't say anything to him at that moment. I went and cooked dinner, and he seemed pretty proud of himself for winning the conversation. But I only have a few more weeks to stay home with my baby girl, and I'm not going to have that stomped on because of my husband. So, ever since that day, I go to my mum's house for dinner. She's totally okay with this, by the way. I don't cook anything for John, and I'm already at my mum's by the time he gets home. I still clean at home and keep the house tidy, but I don't cook dinner. John has been furious with me and has been telling me that I'm an a-hole for leaving him to starve. I just want to have a peaceful environment before I have to go back to work. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? A woman being told by her husband that she's lazy for being a stay-at-home mom. I wonder what the internet's going to think about him. Hey, you know when you go back to work, you'll still be married to him, right? Exactly. Do you really think he's gonna stop this pestering just because you'll have a job again? I love this little bottom comment right here. Newsflash, you are not leaving him to starve. He's starving himself. For a man who seems to claim that he's so capable of everything around the house compared to her, he's really incapable of cooking himself food, isn't he? So with that said, we move on to the update. John and I sat down together this evening, and the first thing he said was that he was sorry. He said that he was sorry for the way he had been talking to me, and that he understood why I did what I did. Oh, he also told me he saw my Reddit post. Oopsie. He informed me that there was a rumor spreading around his workplace that they were planning on laying off a lot of people, and he freaked out. He didn't want to end up unemployed because he wanted to be able to have my full maternity leave, and also didn't want to force us to dip into our savings accounts. So he was working through his lunch and was coming home without having eaten anything since 7 a.m. that morning because of the insane crankiness. And unfortunately, the rumors were true, and he ended up being laid off. So he's unemployed, which means he didn't actually go to work today. He went to his sister's house. And yes, I called her and confirmed that he was actually there all day. He told me that what was going on wasn't an excuse, and that his behavior towards me was unacceptable. Oh, by the way, I did reach out to my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and they gave him an earful this morning. Sister-in-law did the same. He also admitted that he was jealous he couldn't spend the same kind of time with our daughter, and that his jealousy was coming out in those ways. He is absolutely enamored with our daughter and wants to be more present to bond with her while she's still a newborn. Well, I told him that I needed him to see a therapist. I needed him to talk to a professional about how he's been feeling, and I will do the same. We're currently looking for one, maybe a different one for me, covered under my insurance from work. I told him that until he has had a couple of sessions, I am going to be staying at my parents' home. It's not necessarily a matter of distrust, but I believe he needs to talk to someone and be in charge of himself for a little bit. I told him that I have no intention of keeping my daughter from him, but I believed it was the best to remove myself from our home for a little while. Thankfully, he agreed to all of these things. And my wonderful parents and in-laws told us they'll help handle our bills until I'm back to work. So that's where we are. John is going to try and be a stay-at-home dad when I go back to work and has already enrolled in some online classes at a local community college. Mother-in-law sent him some of their family recipes as well, so John is going to be handling dinner from here on out so he can get better at cooking. I understand that many of the people in the comments were telling me to divorce him or leave, but I don't think I'm ready to give up on our marriage just yet. Careful, spoilers. I have a lot of people in my corner, including my in-laws. Daughter and I will be okay. If this behavior starts up again, I won't stick around and hope it'll turn out like this again. I'll go stay with younger sister. She's in state. I was recommended against leaving the state with daughter in case of desire of divorce until I can get a lawyer. So along with a list of edits just clarifying some things that no, he definitely wasn't cheating, he was laid off, he wasn't trying to be sneaky, he was just embarrassed and ashamed about having to be laid off. It seems like a rousing success. Huzzah! For once, this man has seen the error in his ways, something that is surprisingly rare in these stories. But sadly, this is just the height of what comes to the severe dip in the happiness of their lives. As we notice in edit number 4, John is overdue for a physical, so he's called his doctor, and he'll have a checkup next Thursday. This is where we come to the next update, just a month later. I was heading over to our house to drop my daughter off with my husband, and I was a tad bit concerned because he didn't give me a response of acknowledgement like he had the previous days. I thought that he might have fallen asleep. It didn't matter, since I had a key. When I got there, John was just sitting on the couch, and it took a tiny bit of coaxing to get him to tell me that he couldn't really move his arm or leg. I started to freak out because I thought he was having a stroke, but he calmed me down and asked me to drive him to the hospital, just in case. I'll spare you all the details of waiting in the ER with a fussy daughter, but as it turns out, John has a tumor in his frontal lobe. Yeah, the doctor said it would account for the weakness and for any changes in personality that might have been present. We don't know if it's cancerous just yet, since they haven't done a biopsy or anything, but I thought I'd let you guys know. John said to go ahead. So, that's where we are now. I'm terrified, calling my parents and my in-laws. My parents are about to go on their vacation, flying out tonight, and I encourage them to still do so because there's still testing to be done. My in-laws will help me with the daughter, watch her so I can have a little bit of alone time with John, and then I'll go home and they'll go to the hospital to be with him. Hopefully this will slow, preferably stop, the onslaught of comments and DMs telling me to divorce him. I love John with my whole being and he needs me. My in-laws are reaching out to their relatives to see if this is genetic or simply bad luck. John keeps apologizing to me, and I've been trying to get him to stop. He has a brain tumor. He couldn't control what he was saying. It's all so terrifying and I don't know what to do anymore. Thanks for all your precious advice, and if anyone has any suggestions of how I can keep myself composed during this, I'd love to hear it. As the comments say, wow, yes, that seems to be the revelation as to his sudden change in behavior throughout the relationship. Because it's true and known that yes, tumors can affect someone's personality and even their own general persona of a being. Now the OP is adamant that there is no divorce in order here, and I did say there was a happy ending to come. Sort of. As you will find out, a divorce is inevitable, but maybe not in the way you think. 3 months later, we come to her final update. It seems I have forgotten about this account. So my husband is fine. The tumor was benign. He had a surgery to remove it. The doctor said he has likely had it for a few years, and apparently had some people in his family who had brain tumors too. He had some physical therapy after the surgery, as well as some regular therapy. I did too. He's been helping my dad with his business. My dad embroiders for a living. He's teaching John how to do it to help occupy him. Daughter's doing well too, happy and healthy. John has been spending more time with her. But some people sent me DMs saying to be wary that the tumor was what led to John marrying me in the first place. And well, you weren't entirely wrong. John admitted to me that he no longer felt romantic love for me. It was in couples therapy. He said that he still loved me because I was the mother of his child, but it wasn't the same he was just a few months ago. It hurt, to say the least, but I was happy he was being honest. So we've amicably filed for divorce. It will be an uncontested one. I don't want either of us to be stuck in a resentful marriage, but we're going to continue living together for the time being. Daughter is still so young, and John and I think that we'll mutually benefit from staying close. Hopefully you've comprehended what I mean when I say roller coaster of stories. First it's, oh no, husband's being an a-hole. Then, oh yay, husband realized he's being an a-hole. Then, oh no, brain tumor. Then, oh yay, brain tumor's gone, but oh no, turns out that was the only reason he loved you. Look, let's be fair here, that it probably wasn't the only reason he loved you, but sadly it seems to have been a case where it has affected him. Sorry babe, I never loved you. It was the tumor. I do want to highlight this interesting point though. Brain damage from having and then removing the tumor might be why he no longer feels in love too. Or the reverse could be true. TBIs are crazy. Which is something I hope the OP takes into account, because it might not be a case that he never loved you. It might just be a case that after this surgery, his brain's been muddled with, and yeah, it's affected this part of him. I mean, the last thing you want to think or even ponder is the fact that your partner's never truly loved you. And interestingly enough, the husband actually came online himself to give his side of things, to share his perspective on it all. This is the John mentioned in these posts. My wife, Emma, and I are posting these together. I'm fine, brain tumor handled. It was a really strange feeling. I had gone from loving Emma with everything inside of me to only feeling a base level of love for her. I want to be around her. I want to be friends with her. I want to raise our daughter with her, but it doesn't feel the same. I feel really guilty about it. Emma has reassured me that the way I'm feeling can't be ignored or pushed away for her sake. So like she said, we're getting an uncontested divorce. I don't have experience with lawyers or anything, but I don't think it will be a hard divorce. If I'm wrong, just tell me. So anyways, am I the a-hole Redditors? You'll be satisfied with this ending, huh? It is nice to see though that some comments who did admit to thinking he was an absolute a-hole in the first post are willing to understand that yeah, this absolutely sucks, and despite how he was behaving, he really didn't deserve this. That said, I still would argue that it is a somewhat happy ending for them both, as despite the love fading, they clearly still have the desire to be around each other's lives, and you don't really need to love someone to truly mean the world to them. Moving on to a partner who's the complete opposite of compassionate and caring. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my boyfriend and staying with my bestie? My friend, who's 26 male, and I, a 26 female, have been best friends for over 15 years. I have been dating my boyfriend, 27, from over a year. My bestie is socially awkward and has a lot of confidence issues due to his past trauma. He moved out as soon as he turned 18 because his parents constantly told him that he was unwanted. Due to all of this, he had a very hard time dating. My boyfriend knows about this as well. This information will be relevant later. Yesterday, it was my bestie's birthday. Since he doesn't have friends, he asked me and my boyfriend to invite our friends. But about an hour into the party, one of his friends asked her boyfriend out and to marry her. It was adorable. My boyfriend was so happy, but my bestie looked visibly upset. He started walking towards his room without saying anything. My boyfriend noticed, asked him what he was up to, and my best friend said he wasn't feeling well. My boyfriend looked at him and said, I know, you were sad because you would never be able to experience something like this. My best friend started to run up to his room and close the door. I was livid. I called off the party and kicked my boyfriend out. I went back to my best friend's room and somehow convinced him to open the door. He was sobbing and told everyone's life would be better if he wasn't born and that he was unwanted and would never be loved. I felt like a terrible friend. He had been there for me when everyone left me, and I had no clue about how he felt. I decided to stay with my friend until he is all right. I was scared that he might do something if I didn't stay with him. So I called my boyfriend and told him about my friend, but he was obviously mad at me for kicking him out and told me that he is not a kid. He could take care of himself. But I refused and hanged up. He has been blowing up my phone and telling me to return his calls, but I am just ignoring his messages. As for my best friend, I finally stopped crying and he is sleeping right now. I feel like a terrible friend for not having a clue about my best friend's mental health, and also a terrible girlfriend because of upsetting my boyfriend. Sorry for any terrible English, it's actually my third language. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now quite a few comments were suspicious as to how exactly this was interpreted. Did he say exactly this? Which words were he emphasizing? Because let's be honest, this is something that can easily be taken as an insult if someone is trying to genuinely just say, hey, I understand you feel like this is the case, but I don't think it's true. So the OP clarifies with some little pointers. 1. My boyfriend didn't say that he thinks about not being able to experience something like this. He said you won't experience something like that. 2. We have been best friends, but we live 2 states apart, and my current boyfriend doesn't like me inviting my guy friends over, so neither did I invite him to my place, and neither did I went to stay at his. Dude, if you can't trust your girlfriends to be around guys and not sleep with them, you shouldn't be dating her. Either she is far too evidently untrustworthy, or you're far too insecure. 3. My best friend has agreed to do therapy, and we are going to a therapist tomorrow. As for why he doesn't have friends, well, he is very socially awkward and gets really anxious around people. Also, I am going to my boyfriend to confront him about all this mess. He needs to apologize to my best friend, or we are done. I do love him, but I won't tolerate it this time. Yes, I am from India, and yes, he was the same boyfriend I came out to, which relates to this post that she posted about 5 months ago, as this current story began just at the end of January. It's a short one, and I think it's a great display as to how someone can come across as an absolute sweetheart, but also somehow be such an a-hole. Came out to my boyfriend who I thought was homophobic. I have been dating my boyfriend from about 8 months, and his family is really homophobic, which led me into believing that he is like that as well. Yesterday, during our late night phone call, I came out as bisexual to him. He said nothing and just hung up. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up my call. At this point, I thought we were done, and I was in tears because I love him a lot. The next day, he texted me that he wanted to meet and talk, and he was really serious. I was 100% sure that he is going to break up with me. Little did I know that he was planning something for me. I went to his place, and it turns out he organized a party for me. He even baked a cake whose frosting looks like the flag. He quite literally celebrated it as my birthday. I just don't know what to say right now. It feels like I feel in love with him again. Yeah, dang, what an absolute winner right there. Sounds like she hit the jackpot of a partner. Which makes it such a shame to read this update from the January post about a day later. I got in contact with the girl, and she told me that my boyfriend suggested this idea to her. He also told her that my best friend allowed her to do something like that at his birthday party. I was boiling and went to confront my boyfriend right after. We had a huge fight, and he finally admitted that it was his plan. He accused me of trying to sleep with my best friend. I was shocked. Like, I literally stopped meeting my guy friends because he didn't want me to. He was the love of my life. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. I broke up with him on the spot. I am currently writing this in my car and I just can't stop crying. I thought he loved and trusted me. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like my life has been a lie. I discussed everything with my best friend and he kinda blamed himself for my breakup. I needed to explain to him that it's not his fault. We actually had a crying and venting session after a long time. I will be living with my best friend since I don't have my own house. As for my ex, I went to his place to take my stuff and saw him with another girl. He might as well have been cheating on me. I don't want to see his face anymore. I actually feel a lot better now. I could do anything here without being judged or yelled at. I feel free. As for my best friend, he came back from his first therapy session and he seems happy. I gotta love how in the comments, even though she wasn't malicious in this and is not the main asshole of this story, everyone just wants to bag out this girl who got proposed or proposed at someone else's birthday event. I will forever stand by my idea that regardless of if you asked before or who says it's okay, proposing at someone else's wedding or party, etc. is so tacky. They're taking advantage of someone else's money, venue, planning, event, whatever, just to use it for their personal reason. And it's lazy. Oh, well, everyone is already there. So call people and set up your own event? Everyone's dressed so nicely. Tell people to dress nicely. The place is decorated. Yes, for someone else's event. not for your proposal. It's just gross. It's gross to ask, and even more gross to follow through. What do you think, though? Do you side with Dom here? Do you think they're just being overly bitter about people wanting to pop a question? My main gripe is doing it in front of people. Like, can you seriously trust your partner to be so honest about turning you down in front of their friends and family and, like, essentially embarrassing you? You want a genuine answer? Keep your proposals private. From 2 months ago, updated in February. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my husband to go to his ex's funeral? I'll admit, I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s. She died recently, aneurysm. I've been with him for 10 years now, but he'd known her for 20 plus years. The way he tells it, they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple of months into dating, it came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me, that's fine. If you have serious issues with it, let me know now and save us some time. I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years. And she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing. Sounds fair, straight to the point, being open and honest, giving you the chance to leave because you're clearly uncomfortable with it. So what does she do? We got engaged, and then I asked again, to which he gave me this perplexed look and asked, why would us getting married affect my friendships? So I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him. I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. Jesus Christ, an angle for what? He'd have lunch with the ex. They'd go to their geeky movies and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said, we had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out. She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him, you don't think you're going, do you? Oh my god, are you ready for the worst argument for this? My argument summed up. She's dead, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his she's my friend excuse, and she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple days. He gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to her funeral, since I wouldn't want her at his. Well, he was the angriest I've ever seen him when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel, and that he's willing to burn this to the ground, while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband, and my sisters are calling me an insensitive a-hole over this, all saying that there was no romantic aspect to their relationship, and that I'm heartless. Her husband went so far as to call me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt their relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel I should have to hide it anymore, and can speak freely. Am I the a-hole for just wanting him to be done with her, and for him to not attend the funeral? Yeah, this one got a lot of clapback that the mods literally had to give up. So the biggest support was going for Yatar, with everyone in the comments hoping and approving of her getting divorced. And well, a few months later, just a week ago now on r/2x chromosomes, because clearly she didn't have the guts to post this on MR the A-hole anymore, OP returns with some good news. My husband is divorcing me over his ex's death. We've been together for 10 years, but he's choosing to end all of that because of how I reacted to his ex-wife's death. After a basic recap of the previous story, yes, he went to the funeral, which I was very uncomfortable with. I asked him not to go again, and he just gave me this cold, expressionless stare. She was cremated, and my husband was given a little bit of her ashes in a small urn the size of a pill bottle. I told him it was creepy to have them, and he flipped me the bird. The past month plus of my life has been a nightmare because of her dying. My husband has barely talked to me, and I've received texts from nearly all our friends and family calling me a monster. All because someone saw my original post on Reddit and shared it with everyone they could, even people at my job. Many of the posts here were nice in comparison to the things that people I thought my friends said. I was just out of town for several days on a work trip. On Friday, I came home to a partly empty house, his car gone, and a petty sounding letter saying that we would be getting a divorce. Not that he wanted one, that it was going to happen. Already filed. He said that my post was one of the most hurtful things he's ever read, and that my jealousy of his friendship was insane. He wrote, "I watched her die. She was walking by my side when it happened. I have nightmares about it." He said I'd be keeping the house because I don't want to spend every morning waking up to a reminder of the years of lies that was our marriage. He left a list of what he's taking, saying I can keep the rest. His last line was, "If it had been me instead of her, she'd have been there for you in an instant. Remember that." I learned he's staying with her husband because that man sent me a long text telling me to stay away from his home, and he regretted ever letting me into his life. My own sister said that if she learned I was dating someone, she'd fill him in on what a black-hearted C-word I am. So yeah, my husband is divorcing me because of his wife's first... my husband is divorcing me because of his first wife's death. She's more important to him, and it seems to our friends. Keeping our marriage together is. She's screwing up my life even from the grave. Heartfelt words in the comments. Oh, so glad there seems to be no kids. It's nice to see everyone else can see the zero self-awareness this woman has, to the point I have to wonder if this is actually legitimate or just someone really good at trolling. But I don't know, man, the timeline checks out. Takes time to sort through all your divorce stuff, especially trying to get over a funeral happening and experiencing all that. Someone also pointing out that usually when making these sort of stories, they try to mitigate just how much of an a-hole they genuinely were, so it was probably much worse. Like the fact she is jealous that the friend seems to get her husband better than she does, yet she calls the stuff that he finds interesting, boring, geek stuff. Wow, I wonder why you can't seem to connect with him. It's almost as if you don't even respect him in the first place. Moving on to an interesting title. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend to stop mimicking my symptoms as her own for her followers? I'm a 26 female. I've been friends for a decade with Janet, 24 female. We had never been super close up until 2020. Janet has always had some sort of disability, the most prominent being an autoimmune disorder that causes chronic pain. Janet is also very prominent on social media, and often discusses her disabilities very openly. I am not, and haven't really discussed mine in length. Recently, I have been afflicted by really bad pains in my hands due to my job. I expressed how badly things had gotten when I found myself physically incapable of using my left hand for the most basic of tasks, such as picking up a pencil or even waving. I told Janet about it, and as a friend, she was very sympathetic. Then, less than 24 hours later, I went onto her social media and I found her crying to her followers about her chronic hand pain. I was kind of dumbfounded, since she had just been with me the day before opening jars and carrying around things with no pain or complaints. I decided to let this go and believe that she may in fact be suffering like I am because, well, how do I know if she hasn't been dealing with this? But then, it started getting weird. Janet started asking me more and more questions. What's the pain feels like? How frequently? Does it shoot to other places, or was it localized, etc.? At first, I didn't think anything of it, and answered her, only to have her have the same type of pain less than 24 hours later. I was shocked that she would say that she had the same level and type of pain as me, even using the same terminology I did. I decided to stop answering her questions, and for a couple of months, she stuck with what she had already told her followers. Till last night. After a few visits with my doctor, my pain is gone, thankfully. The only thing that is gone for good is the grip strength I once had, but I just have to cope with it and manage. Janet called me last night, and I, stupidly, told her that my pain is gone and explained my grip strength issues. Can you guess what happened next? This morning, less than 12 hours later, Janet posted a 20-minute sob fest on social media regarding her grip strength and how she is going to have to cope with it leaving her. I watched as she dramatically let tears fall down her face while discussing how she can't do basic tasks anymore. Frustrated, I texted Janet and told her to stop mimicking my very painful condition and using my symptoms as her own for her followers and for attention. She wrote back that I was an a-hole for suggesting she was doing that, and then ran to her social media to state that a friend thinks she's faking it and how hurt she is. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but after her symptoms mirrored mine so quickly, it was suspicious. Am I the a-hole? Now overall, people thought that they weren't the a-hole, which is fair enough, but hey, it's always possible that this person is merely just mitigating how coincidental coincidental these similar pains were. For all we know, this could just be a crazy coincidence. But with this edit for clarity from the OP, we learn to realize that, okay, yeah, maybe it's definitely not that. So I do not know what kind of autoimmune disorder she has, or if that is a contributing factor to her pain. She told me that she has not been tested, but she feels she has one. She just doesn't know which one. I didn't ask further questions because it's not my business. I also do not discount any pain she has. As I stated, I first was sympathetic with her because I was not going to assume that she was not experiencing things. However, only time it was brought up was when I had expressed something about mine to her, either good or bad. And this has gone on since late October, so it's not a snap judgment kind of deal. Another edit just a few days later. So I cannot give her false symptoms or anything like that because she is a compulsive Googler. She Googles everything and will know what symptoms are fake. I have decided that I will not be including her in conversations revolving around my health, whether physical or mental, as I don't want to be used as inspiration for her attention seeking, as someone mentioned in the comments somewhere. Thank you all for your comments, by the way. It really solidified that I wasn't going crazy. And just 8 days ago, there was another final update just summarizing that yes, she's planning to drop this friend. With this interesting tidbit, she has never been diagnosed with anything other than bipolar disorder, but she denies she has this. She claims to have many others, just not the one she has been diagnosed with. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but if you get diagnosed with something, you can't exactly counteract it by saying no, can you? Like, if that was the case, I'd have said that towards my depression years ago. Also noting she's not monetized in any of her social media accounts, so there's no worry about that being used. And a more detailed update after giving a call to let her know that she's going low contact, so to speak. The friend did leave a voicemail, but she doesn't plan on responding to it or even listening to it at this time, along with a quick thank you to everyone supporting her through this frustrating ordeal. And you may be curious, what sort of excuse or reasoning did the friend give in their voicemail? Well, after the OP read the voicemail, she was upset and wanted to talk about her recent fibo flare-up. Wow, shocker, the person who uses social media for a pity party is calling you up trying to get a pity party. Like, sure, it's healthy to talk about it, to post about it, to make people aware of it, but don't make it your single trait, like this person clearly has been. But even then, that's ignoring the fact that apparently a lot of the issues that this other person's claiming to have are things that can easily be proven if they're true or not, as a lot of the people in the comments seem to point out. Yeah, what is the opposite of imposter syndrome, where you're actually an imposter but don't think or realize it? I think the medical term used in the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, is liar liar, pants on fire. Anyway, friends, that's where we'll end today's video. Thank you as always for watching. Remember to show your love by liking this video. Oh yeah, that's something that's not totally exhausted to be asked about these days. Do make sure you drink your water though. Glubby glub and do that sound as you drink it. It's a lot of fun. People look at you weirdly, and that's how you get your fulfillment of attention in today's life. Anyway, be good. See you next time. Bye!